Welcome to the February 3rd OpenJ9 community call. As always, please add your name and affiliation to the attendee list just so we know who's been joining the calls. All right, and so here, as usual, I will pause and just give anybody an opportunity to add anything to the agenda. If there's something you'd like to talk about today, either a community-based question or a quick question on how something goes, we can tackle that right off the bat. Or feel free to add things to the end of the agenda and we'll tackle them in the any other business section. I'm still looking for volunteers for lightning talks. So if there's a feature you've worked on recently or some aspect of OpenJ9 you want to talk about or whatever it may be, love to have some volunteers here to give a quick lightning talk.
So I talked to Renfei yesterday. I think we can do auto exclude using GitHub workflow for test. I'm thinking probably after 2 weeks from now. That sounds like February 17th.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
Somebody beat me in writing in what to schedule, so I'll just steal that up here to the February 17th.
Yeah, I had put that on the possible schedule, but Lan has kindly volunteered Renfei.
It's the best way to do it.
I can vouch for this feature. I'm enjoying using it at the test project at Adopt.
Yeah, or just a heads up, we're formatting the playlist so that when we actually enable the GitHub workflow in OpenJ9, you guys will not see a lot of formatting happening. It's just directly to the change. So Renfei has 2 PRs pending at this moment, one for formatting the playlist and one for checking the GitHub workflow. Once that's actually merged, then people will be able to use this feature.
Okay, sounds great. Any other volunteers? If there is something you want to volunteer for, giving a talk, reach out to me via Slack or speak up and we'll get you tagged into the agenda as well. Take a look at the recent user-raised issues. I see a GC one's come in. Looks like there's already some conversation there. Possible documentation error, also some conversation. Feature request for better exception messages. Discussion around array out of bounds exception. And those are the ones that have come in the past week. So it looks like there's at least some activity on those. Is there anything in this list that anybody would like to call out or have a longer discussion on? Okay. If there is anything that does need more collaboration or communication this way, happy to tackle things through the issues or being tagged on Slack. We can have discussions there too as well. Jumping back to our agenda, usual reminder around help wanted issues. I know we're coming up on a code split, so now's a good time to get a bunch of these things out of the way if they're currently open. But once we've done that code split, if there are minor cleanup issues, it's a great way to onboard people into the project. So please do tag them appropriately and leave them for somebody new to tackle. We'll take a look at the download trends from Adopt OpenJDK. See that there's been an uptick, probably related to the recent releases there. We take a look at the OpenJ9 downloads. Definitely been an uptick for us. And then if we also want to take a look at the hotspot downloads over the same time, been an uptick there as well. So it's good to see that the builds are still being picked up there, and what we're expecting around a release happening makes sense that people would be picking up the new binaries. Is there any other discussion of these release trends? Right, then we'll jump back to the agenda. And the next major item, of course, is the upcoming release with the code split on February 7th. So basically the end of this week. So if we take a look at the release plan there, see that we're down to 37 open items, considering we were at over 60 something last week when we talked. This is a great reduction. So when we look at this list, do we have concerns for things in this list being able to close out by our February 7th code split? Or is it enough things that can either be moved forward or double delivered? Looking for feedback on where we're at.
So as far as the JEK16 feature items go, we're looking good. I don't see any concerns. For some of the items, there's, for Vector API, for example, it works, but this is something that we'll continue to improve on performance-wise in future releases. For things like records, I think we've either closed everything out or we're close to doing so. And for some of the other features, we just need to verify that they are being tested appropriately on J9. I think the only things that we may be moving out are some of the user issues. Some of these issues we're still investigating. And so we'll probably make a call this week to see if these are things that we can close out before code split, or if it's something that will need more time.
Okay, thanks, Toby. I do see there's a number of these items that have been open and moving forward for some time. So I would not be surprised to see a large number of these either move forward again, just be closed out. Are there any other concerns with the upcoming code split date? Okay, then it sounds like we will proceed with that date. We may have to adjust some of our planning around this, around our milestones, given the changes around builds at adopt. Think through a little bit what the different milestone points mean, given those changes. Just to confirm, the JDK 15 builds have all been retired at this point?
That's correct.
That's good. We'll jump down to our general business. Do we have an update on adopt?
I've just put a few notes in there to say that the transition to Eclipse Foundation, the community review period is complete. Aquavit project is live, so we will actually start to move the content of the repos over into an Aquavit org. The plan for this is actually to keep both systems up and running, probably to the April release. But the first part of this will be moving contents over into the new project zones. So at a certain point, we'll stop making changes in like an OpenJDK test repo and switch over to Aquavit/tests repo. So we will have to coordinate this well, and there will be a few PRs probably to do on the OpenJ9 side as well, so that we don't, there's no breakage. But I expect within a few weeks, we'll have the first cut of that move happening for Aquavit. And I don't think that Tamarin or Tamarin compliant, certainly Tamarin compliance doesn't matter to this community. Tamarin would be the build scripts, which will matter somewhat maybe to some people, but I think the Aquavit one is the focus. And as probably some of you know, the intent is to continue to test OpenJ9 as part of the Aquavit program. But I guess we'll, in a future OpenJ9 call, kind of detail how we hope that will look and how we hope to continue to be closely working with OpenJ9. And then finally, just system tests. Changed from iteration-based to time-based. That work is still ongoing. Thanks to Mesba, Lan, and Simon for doing a bunch of that. We are still making adjustments. For example, we've split out some tests because we were hitting some out-of-memory issues. So we've divided a couple of one target into two for some of the load tests. I put a link there. I expect that refinement to continue for the next few weeks as we see how these run in the different places that we run this test suite. That's probably all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, just one thing to add to that. The tests Shelley was referring to about splitting in two, they were the Lambda load tests, and I know
Right.
there are a number of OpenJ9 issues currently open around the behavior of those tests. So be aware that as of tomorrow, they are operating differently, and that it'll mean I avoid the out of memory errors that were happening with the uncompressed refs builds. But some of the issues that are being worked on were where we were running right close to the boundary of the heap. So those issues might now not even occur. So if someone's working on those, they may well need to do what the tests were doing previously in order to recreate the issues that were being seen in the past. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and if people need help, they can reach out to you directly, and if they're having problems to recreate something.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Simon.
Any other questions for Shelley? Thanks, Shelley. In terms of the infrastructure, Adam, do we have an update?
Yeah, so the Windows issue, I think Joe's got a PR drafted, but he got sidetracked on the UNB stuff. So the UNB thing is, the Artifactory is work is complete now, so we've increased the history from 2 days to 30 days. So if you're launching grinders on artifacts that are being pulled from there, they should be around for a lot longer now. So we guesstimated we could hold about 30 days worth, so we'll have to keep an eye on the space as we approach the 1 month point. There was an issue with Zlinx machines last week, and that's now resolved. That's all I know about, unless there's questions.
All right, thanks, Adam. All right, that brings us to the any other business section. Bad-Need, is there an update on the transition to OpenJDK method handles?
Yes, Dan. One of the major PRs was merged last Friday, the method handle natives PR. Only 2 PRs remain from the JIT side. After that, we should be able to enable builds in the Eclipse CI for JDK method handles. And the next thing is I plan to open issues for all the test failures we are seeing in sanity functional and extended functional, which should be seen by the end of this week. This sums up my update. Back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Pabni. Devin, do we have an update on the CMake migration?
Yeah, there was a couple PRs that I need to get in OMR. Those are open now. And then there's one that depends on some of the OMR changes. And then in terms of JDK 16, I mean, Sharon could probably talk better about this, but last I talked with her, that looked pretty close. It was just helping her resolve some issues with DDR gen, which means that presumably we're getting through the full compile. Okay. And there's an issue there. I have gave her a workaround, but there seems to be a weird thing where the preprocessor is doing strange things with the command line on XL-Clang if you feed it a header file instead of a C or .cpp file. And so I've been doing a little bit digging to see if that's just a weird artifact of our kind of configuration, or if it's a bug in XL-Clang, or at least an edge case thing. Yeah, that's about it.
So the other thing is that we've turned on CMake builds everywhere that it works. So
Right.
For JDK 16, all platforms but Windows and AIX. Similarly for JDK 17, and for JDK 8, we've turned it on for all platforms but Windows. There was a small problem for JDK 8, but that was resolved the next day. So we had one night of builds that probably weren't quite right for JDK 8. There's still an outstanding.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask, is that second test still failing with the changes?
Yeah, it still does.
All right. Okay.
So that test is excluded for JDK 11. So it's probably just been, I guess it's still a problem on JDK 11 as well. But since we don't run that test, we never saw it.
Yeah.
There's a static linking test on P-Linux.
There was a problem with DDR gen on the staging branch of JDK Next. The PR that I opened for Omar to fix that has just been merged. So when that promotes, we should be able to get the staging branch merged into OpenJ9 branch.
That's good. I think OMR promotion is blocked at the moment. Something that got merged yesterday that fails to compile on some platforms. And hopefully
the Windows thing?
So Windows and Mac.
Okay.
It was related to DDR in some way. Let me see if I can find the thread.
Well, I'm remembering a comment you made on Slack about a compiler or a warning on Windows that killed the build. I didn't think that was related to DDR.
No, so that was a breakage by a change that got delivered yesterday. There's already a PR to fix that.
Okay, good.
So what's happening with OMR? Yeah, all Windows and JDK 11 Mac are failing to compile. There's some new code added. Okay, I'm just trying to bring it up. Something about cross-compiling. Make sure DDR is disabled while cross-compiling.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that one caused that problem, but
yeah, it's weird. It's like there's a flag that's on that should be off. We can't find any place that turns it on, and because the flag is on, we're getting an error that says DDR is not supported when cross-compiling. Use OMR DDR off.
Is this on Windows?
This is on Windows and Mac JDK 11.
Okay, the Mac I don't understand, but Windows, for weird reasons, it considers that a cross-compiling platform because we're using like the MSVC toolset, but it syncs the platform as Cygwin to make it integrate nicely with the OpenJDK make stuff. So there, the cross-compiling flag is on. I have no clue why the Mac one is throwing that.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I looked at the Mac failure, so it could be a different problem. Okay, well, I'll answer Philippe in Slack.
Pete, did I capture this correctly? JDK 16, it's all platforms but Windows and AIX. 8 is all platforms but Windows, and 11 is all platforms but ZOS.
That's correct. And for 16, you can also say 17.
Just to confirm, to make it default, it's a config change in the extensions repo, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But nothing needed on the build side.
Right. We're hard coding it. So we've hard coded the change to CMake. And if you wanted to turn it off, you'd have to use an option in configure.
At the next item on our agenda, we have the Kubernetes Helm and Operator. Marius? See, you're not on mute, but I can't actually hear you. Marius, if you can get your microphone figured out, we'll circle back to this. Otherwise, we'll move on for now. Microjet, I see the next meeting is scheduled in the past. See Scott on the call.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, very often it happens this to me, so I have to shut down the application and start it again. I don't know. So, anyhow, I was saying that the Helm chart PR is ready from my point of view, but before merging, I would like an approval from you.
Okay. Yeah, Chris reached out to me yesterday.
Okay.
I told him I should be able to do that hopefully this week.
Okay. And also, Chris is working on an OpenJ9 blog post related to the Helm chart deployment. He gave me a draft that I need to review.
That's great. Do you need me to add him as a?
Yeah, that would be great. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. If someone shoot me his email and I'll.
Yeah, I will.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Don't see Scott on the call, so we don't have an update on when the next Microjet meeting is. In terms of the compressed and default combined builds, Sharon, is there an update?
Yeah, I think we've been running nightlies and testing, and it seems like for the most part there aren't any issues. I think there is one GC issue, but I believe pull requests have been open for that, so I think that's the main thing blocking enabling mixed refs. I think maybe Peter was following that a bit more closely than me. And then, yeah, so the XL client JDK 16 stuff would be the only other thing blocking mixed refs being ready. And yeah, thanks to Devin for working. I'm still working through some of the DDR related build failures, but it seems like it's pretty close.
Will those issues likely be resolved by Friday, or is the plan to double deliver them if they're not?
I'm thinking they should be able to be resolved by Friday, but if not, then I guess double delivery would be the way to go. I do think it's pretty close, though. The rest of the build looks like it's going okay, aside from some DDR stuff near the end.
Okay. I guess we'll keep monitoring that, and hopefully we can get this into the upcoming release.
Yeah, and congratulations to the team on moving this giant piece of work forward. It's nice to see.
I don't know if I was on mute when I said that I think it will get in for Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, so JDK 11 nightly builds are switched to use mixed refs. There's one outstanding problem. There's a PR and OMR that hopefully will be merged if it hasn't been already. It's been reviewed and by Alex, and he approved it. So I'm hoping a committer will merge it. I opened an issue at adopt, so I think adopt could go ahead and start building mixed refs for JDK 11. Shelley says they don't even run the special system testing, which is where we have the one failure. So they shouldn't see any problems with moving.
Yeah.
Okay, that was going to be my question. I can open that PR to have them switch over because I did those changes internally already.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, Adam. Is there any other updates on this? And I don't see Adam Barley. I know there was a discussion around a GP test failure on OSX last week. Without him here, I'm not sure if there was any follow-up on that or what the status is. But I think we can handle that on Slack. Is there any other business that we need to discuss today?
A question about enabling mixed refs for other versions. So for example, for JDK 8, we could enable it for all platforms except for Windows. Windows isn't switched to CMake yet, or CMake doesn't work for Windows yet. Any thoughts on whether we should wait until all platforms are ready, or if we should switch the ones that are ready now?
I think we should switch the ones that are ready now. That'll give us more time with the testing of it and just help bake the feature for longer.
But for JDK 16, assuming we don't want to ship half the platforms mixed refs and half not, might be too confusing to switch JDK 16, some platforms and not others. We don't have the capacity in the open anyways to be testing both. I'm not even sure we have the capacity to be testing mixed ref spills for all our platforms.
So Sharon had indicated she thought the issues with 16 would be resolved by Friday.
So that would be AIX. I'm not sure about Windows. I think Devin would have to answer for Windows.
Yeah, the Windows stuff, I'll take a quick look at it, but it shouldn't be much. I think I'll get that today.
Okay, so why don't we make the call on that one on Friday? Because I agree with you that shipping something where half the platforms are and half aren't isn't a great solution. Most platforms are and some aren't. I would like to get this enabled on all of our platforms, on all of our releases as quickly as possible.
Okay, I'll look at switching JDK 8 and maybe try some builds with JDK 16 to make sure that we're ready to switch when the other platforms are ready.
Thanks, Pete. Any other business we need to discuss today? and thank you, everybody, and we'll meet again on February 10th.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Thanks.